You. It took me a while to really catch on to this idea of gratitude. I think I got my very first book on gratitude back in 2009, and it was a newly released book. Somebody sent it to me so I would review it. And I read the book. I liked the book. I gave it a very good review. Then I put it back in my bookcase and I forgot about it, never gave it another thought. And I will say that back then I did think gratitude was kind of a soft option when it came to uh, the practice of spirituality, like journaling, like affirmations, like heart centered breathing. I really thought those were all soft options because I wasn't committed to a daily practice of them. And so I never gave gratitude that much weight until I started thinking about it more in 2012 when I read Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic. And then I got some more understanding of it. And then, like, even we did this book club for this book just a couple months ago. And again, I got like another huge pow moment, from this book. And so, see, all of these things, journaling, heart centered breathing, affirmations, the practice of gratitude, they are actually not soft options when we put them to work in our life. When we make a commitment to practice them, they become an advanced spiritual practice. Gratitude is an advanced spiritual practice. So today I'm going to talk about having a thankfulness practice, but I'm also going to talk just a little about the science of gratitude, because the science of gratitude, learning that people actually did studies, and I first learned about the studies just a few years ago from Greg Braden, but when there are studies and there's evidence-based information on the power of gratitude, then I was all ready to listen to that. So in our science of gratitude, it does several things. It helps to create new neural pathways to what's called the bliss center. And I feel like that's when we are feeling deep gratitude for something and we feel something happening right here. I think that's because of a connection to the bliss center. I don't know. We foster cognitive restructuring by evoking positive thinking, right? With a regular practice of gratitude, there's restructuring happening in our brain. The practice of gratitude reduces fear and anxiety by regulating our stress hormones. And then it enhances dopamine and serotonin. And they're neurotransmitters responsible for happiness. But the whole thing around dopamine right now, we affect our dopamine levels when we spend too much time on Instagram or any kind of social media. And it's not a happy feeling. We're not getting the happiness. We're just like needing a dopamine hit. But gratitude gives us the dopamine hit, but also it gives us true happiness. There are also psychological things that happen to the person who has a regular practice of gratitude. So here's some psychological benefit. People who practice this regularly tend to be 25% more happier than everybody else. People who practice gratitude are more awake and aware because we're seeking out the good on purpose. Okay? People who practice gratitude have an improved mood, and we experience more fulfillment and more self-satisfaction. There's also social implications, and these are good too. People who practice gratitude tend to be more generous, 20% more generous with their time and money. And they have more deeply fulfilling relationships because with the practice of gratitude, we are better at communicating, we're more forgiving, and we have more empathy. Okay, and then of course, there are the physical benefits of gratitude. We have a stronger immune system. This is one of the main ones found. And it helps to regulate our sleep cycles, but we'll also experience less aches and pains, improved cardiac function, which means that basically the regular practice of gratitude helps our body to function a little bit better, right? A little more optimal. So gratitude is a spiritual mystery that most people overlook because it just seems like, oh, that would just be too easy, right? That's too easy. I need to have a spiritual practice that like is really hard. That's how I know it's working. Well, a regular practice of gratitude is not easy. It can be a lot of work to find things to be grateful for. Gratitude causes a shift in our consciousness, which then changes our perception. Now, what happens when we change our perception? When we change our perception, we see the world differently. When we see the world differently, we show up to the world differently. That's what comes with that change in perception. So I do want to talk about also the value of appreciation and how the thankfulness practice is both gratitude and appreciation. They are a little different, right? The definitions are different, although they are used interchangeably all the time. Okay, so it's really not a big deal. But gratitude is when we have thankfulness for benefits received. So we just had a problem solved. And so gratitude we'll start with, we had a problem and somehow we overcame the problem, right? Maybe somebody came in and helped us with something. So we had a problem, then somebody helps us to solve it or we solve it. We no longer have the problem. So now we just feel, relief. There's relief with gratitude. So just before we have that experience of gratitude, we might actually be in a state of resistance because we don't like what's going on. And so imagine you're going to get up real early because you're going to go to a very special event. And it's very important to go to this event. You are so excited. You've been planning it for a long time. But you get up and you go out to your car and your car won't start. Okay, so now you have a problem. You really want to be at this event. Your car won't start. So you call your best friend, and your best friend comes right over, picks you up, takes you to your event, right? And you made it. So you have gratitude for your friend who took you to this event. There was a problem, and then the problem was solved because somebody came through for you. Now, appreciation is thankfulness for the good that is already in our lives. Right? So we're just recognizing something of value that's already here. We recognize the value in someone or something. And we're not in any state of resistance at all because we're just focusing on the good already. So we're focusing on the good, and then this adds more goodness. This adds more feelings of fulfillment within us. So with appreciation, instead of feeling relief, we feel fulfillment. Okay, we feel love, like we feel that expanding within our heart. So imagine that you go out to lunch with the same friend who came and picked you up a while back for this event. And it's just a nice lunch. You're having a good visit. You love the conversation. And you look at your friend and you just think, I'm so blessed to have this person in my life. That's appreciation, right? I just so appreciate everything you are. You're perfect just as you are. And I so appreciate you. So there's appreciation. Okay, so you can see the definitions are not a big deal. However, appreciation will actually give us a little more momentum as we are creating in our lives. With gratitude, we have the relief first, and then things are okay. With appreciation, we just go straight to something as very wonderful. So we experience the fulfillment in our heart, we experience expansiveness, and we then feel momentum creating in our lives. We feel momentum in that, and how we can listen and act in faith, and how we receive that divine guidance. Okay, we're getting the momentum. So a thankfulness practice will include both gratitude and appreciation. Okay, but first I have a quote here from Rhonda Byrne. I know I've shared this with you several times, but if we are not grateful for each thing in our lives, we are unintentionally taking those things for granted. And this made me think about little things. Like every morning, my husband will turn on the coffee pot so that it warms up by the time I get back in the house with my dog. And it's just a little thing. But I didn't have to turn that on. I didn't have to push that button. The coffee was just already hot. It's those little things. And because I always tell him, Guy, thank you so much for turning on the coffee pot. Then he always wants to turn it on now. So, right, it's the little things. It's the little things. And I always also have to be real aware and alert to thanking him every time he takes Lulu out for me at 3:30 in the morning. Thank you so much. So, what she's talking about, taking things for granted, if we're not grateful for something, we're really the opposite then, and that's being ungrateful. And ungratefulness can look like complaining and blaming and talking about how life's not fair. Basically, we look at the conditions of our life and we say, I'm not happy with any of this until it changes so that I can be happy. That's really where we're taking things for granted. So I'm going to share a couple of old ancient spiritual texts that talk about the power of gratitude. So this is from the book of Matthew. To everyone who has, more will be given, but for the one who does not have, even what he has shall be taken away. And this does seem kind of harsh. I used to think, that's so sad. If somebody doesn't have much, they need to be helped and be given more. But this is about a state of consciousness. It's not about the stuff we own, the money in our possession. This is a state of consciousness. So it turns into, for those who have gratitude, they'll be given more to be thankful for. But for those who do not have gratitude, they'll be given more to complain about, because this whole thing is just about a state of consciousness. Are we in gratitude for what's happening right now, for finding the good things, seeking out the wonder that is God? Or are we just pointing at the things in our life and thinking, I can't be happy until you change so I can be happy? Okay. So gratitude, it changes our perception. Again, it's so important that people have been talking about it for thousands of years. Now, this is from the Quran. And if you thought the previous one was a little harsh, this is very harsh. God proclaimed, if you are grateful, I will give you more. If you are ungrateful, my punishment is severe. My punishment is severe. Of course, we know if we try to scare somebody into being grateful to us for doing something, they're not really grateful. They're just scared. They're trying to appease us, so we'll back off. But what this is saying is that the more that you have gratitude, the more you will be given to be grateful for. If you take your life for granted, this will just create more suffering in your life. The more you look around at your life and think, that's unfair, I don't want this to happen, and until these things change, I can't be happy. We're creating our own suffering. We're the one getting in our way with this, right? So this is why we start finding the gratitude. Start finding the gratitude. So our thankfulness practice, it shifts our focus. Now, shifting our focus, this does a really big thing. This is why if we don't have a gratitude practice, our focus will be on the things that cause us suffering. The reason why is because of this. Our remarkable brain. Our brain, it needs to be given a task. It needs a task. But see, it's not our bus driver, it's just an assistant. And so if we're not intentionally giving it a task, it's just going off of what we're thinking about all the time. Life's unfair. This is so unfair. And the brain says, you're right. I'm going to show you all the reasons this is true. So we have to intentionally give it direction. And we start practicing gratitude and appreciation, and our brain goes to work and finds more for us to have gratitude for. It finds more for us to appreciate in our life, even all of the little things. And so it's our brain that's actually helping us to call forth greater good into our lives when we give it a direction first. We give it a task. Now, St. Paul, he also gave a very mysterious formula for a thankfulness practice. In everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ concerning you. And so when he says in everything gives thanks, in everything give thanks, this is a directive to practice thankfulness even when things aren't going good, and especially when things are not going good. When life is hard for us, we really need to put this into practice. So practice thankfulness during those times when life is hard also, because this is how we're aligning ourselves. We're aligning with the divine within us, right? And that is what the will of God is. Align with the divine within. That's it. The will of God is align with the divine within. This is how we live our highest purpose. But this requires us to surrender our personal will, our small will, because it's the personal will who looks around at life when things are not going our way, and it is what is saying, you can't be happy. We can't be happy until this changes. It's that little ungrateful voice. It's the entitled voice. That voice inside of us, whether you want to call it the adversary, the ego, it's the one finding things to be upset about. Okay, so we surrender our personal will to divine will. In Christ concerning you, just aligning with the divine within, because that's how we access the Christ consciousness, or the unity or oneness consciousness. And this is where we can now experience a higher level of thinking, right? We have a more expanded consciousness when we are in Christ consciousness. And so this is when we see the world differently, but we're also harmonizing our thoughts with divine mind. And this is when we start creating heaven on earth, when we are harmonized with the divine mind. So let's look at a simple thankfulness practice. So in our thankfulness practice, I know in my personal practice, and you can alter this for yourself, I like to start with my gratitudes first and be very specific. I have gratitude. And so I like to say it like, I am so happy and grateful that yesterday my son Adam was vacuuming and he offered to vacuum my mom's room. And I was so grateful because then I didn't have to vacuum her room. So I had gratitude for Adam. I was very grateful. He solved a problem. Now, our next exercise, and this can be a little more challenging, is we do an I did that gratitude. I am so happy and grateful that I managed this thing. And so I'll tell you, one I had recently, Friday, I had to handle a government state of California sales tax thing for Unity. I don't know how it got handled last year or the year before, but we were all up to date except for 2024. And I went on the website and it was really hard for me to understand what was going on. And finally on the website, their chat bot was like, if you need help, call customer service. I was like, it knew. I got on the phone and I got somebody who was very helpful. He helped me get all of our Unity information together. And then he walked me through the entire process. He walked me through everything I had to do to make sure we were all up to date for the year 2024. And when I got off the phone, I was just like, yes, I did that. I actually did a thing that was freaking me out. I did a thing that for the last couple months, if I woke up in the middle of the night and started thinking about it, I couldn't get back to sleep. Okay, it's been weighing on me, and I finally handled it. Okay, so that's an I did that gratitude. All right, so we're having gratitude for something we managed, something we handled. Okay, now appreciate something or someone in your life, and again, be really specific. I could say recently that I really appreciated the natural patience that the man at the tax place thing, he had this beautiful patience. When I got on the call with him, I was very frazzled, but he was just so patient and nice. And he was like, well, look, just give me this one number. Do you have this number? And we'll just start there. Okay, you're doing fine. Now just click on this button. You're doing fine. And I said, so do you just handle crazy people all day long? And he's like, it's my job. People need help. This stuff can be very complicated. And so I really appreciated his really kind attitude toward me. He wasn't getting short with me because I couldn't put things into words when I first got on the phone with him. Okay. So I really appreciated him. Okay. Then we do another I did that appreciation. Okay. So this is something we already value about ourselves. It's not something we want to, we're working toward, but I appreciate about myself that I did go to the gym even though I didn't feel like it. I appreciate about myself that I like to be creative, and I've gotten so good at following my curiosity. Okay. So what is it that we appreciate ourselves? So I like to start off with each one. I am so happy and grateful that, or I'm so happy and thankful that. And then I like to end it with thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so that's a really, really simple thankfulness practice. And if you want more information on this kind of practice, you can buy Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic. Okay, fantastic book. We do want to keep in mind that as we are practicing these, neither appreciation or gratitudes will work if they are just words. We really have to feel them. And that's, for me, it's really helpful that I speak them out loud, because I can really feel it. I'm so happy and grateful. And then I tell the story, I get real detailed. And then I thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Feeling the gratitudes, feeling the appreciation, that's how we know something is changing. That's how we know something is changing, because we are feeling it. Okay? We are feeling it. Now here's our call to action, our affirmation. Let's say this together 3 times. I show up to my life with a thankful heart. I show up to my life with a thankful heart. I show up to my life with a thankful heart. And a thankful heart is a happy heart. A thankful heart is an empowered heart. And so our invitation over this week is that anytime we are starting to feel suffering or resentment or like life is just not fair, we can ask ourselves in that moment, okay, am I taking something for granted? Am I taking something for granted? I know I had to remind myself this week that I take our dishwasher for granted. And like I was loading it and I'm like, it's going to wash all this and it's going to mostly dry everything. And it's just so easy, right? It had to break down first and then we had to get it fixed. No, we got a new one. It broke down and then we got a new one. And then I'm like, oh, right, I really appreciate a dishwasher. So are we taking something for granted? And then what's one thing I could be grateful for right now? Like, what is just one thing I could be grateful for? And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. Like I've practiced this when I've been stuck in really awful traffic and I had to pee and I was hungry. Okay. And it may not be easy to find something to be grateful for. So you might start off small. Well, at least I'm wearing comfortable shoes. Okay. I'm grateful my shoes are comfortable. Right? I'm grateful that my gas pedal is not, lava and nails. Okay. All right. But then we can be grateful, and there's silly things. We can be grateful for a silly thing. And then that will help us like move into something deeper. We can have appreciation. What's one thing I could appreciate about my life right now? So now we're aligning with the divine within us, and we're surrendering our personal will to divine will when we align with the divine within us. We're in the unity consciousness, right? The oneness consciousness. Now we are in a higher level of thinking. We're in a higher level of consciousness. So we'll listen and act, and we'll show up to our life in a different way. And it's in this level of thinking, right, that the thankfulness practice moves us into, that shifts our perception. So we shift the way that we see life, we shift the way we show up into our life. And this is how we are creating heaven on earth. Yeah. So until next time, remember, You are divinely designed to be doing all of this. That's why it feels so good to have a thankfulness practice. It's part of our divine design. You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is. So it is.